When you get nervous, your body starts to take the breath in a shallow manner. So the breath is only sitting up high. And the more you breathe high, the more you're out of breath. And it starts to spiral for you as well, because as you're nervous, you're breathing more shallow, and then you're starting to feel more and more out of breath. And this is where the power of being able to be in control of getting your breath right down deep in those moments when you think, okay, I'm getting a bit nervous. Just give me a second. Let me breathe, get the breath deep, and recommence. And it makes all the difference.
How are entrepreneurs like us daring bravely to build a stage, ditch the sweatpants, and step up to the mic? How do we create our own transformative events so we can get our message out into the world in a bigger way that's not only profitable, but it's actually something we can be proud of? That's the question. And the answers are inside this podcast. My name is Sarah Pfeiffer. Welcome to Greenroom Central. Today I brought in a Greenroom Central Studios Lisa Hugo with 30 years of experience transforming voices globally. Lisa merges her singing, coaching, and stage expertise to empower voices from boardrooms to Broadway, including royalty and Got Talent stars. Lisa, welcome to Greenroom Central Studios. Say hello to Linchpin Nation.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
I've been really looking forward to this conversation, Lisa, because I always do prep for my interviews and I do research. And I initially asked you on because I follow Devon Brown, the MC extraordinaire, right?
Okay, I wondered how you came in touch with me. Okay.
And I saw the interview that you did with him and loved your conversation and really resonate with who you serve. And I think helping people get their message out into the world in a bigger way, especially from stage, so that they can be changing people's lives in that like really transformative in-person event like format, it just really touches my heart. And so I think you helping people do just that just put a smile on my face. I had found you. And, as I did my research for this conversation, I kept finding more and more similarities, not just in kind of what we love, this event space, but also just we're both moms, we're both dog moms, we're both entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I just got excited because I think this is going to be so much fun today.
Yeah, great.
So I thought we'd start by having a little fun and asking you to share a story, a little backstory on me. About just over 6 years ago now, I made my way into my very first personal development seminar. It was a 4-day seminar and it totally rocked my world. Within 11 months of being in that room, I'd paid off all the debt I'd been under for a decade and a half. I left the Midwest to the United States and moved my family to the Pacific Northwest, sold our house, left my 16-year corporate career doing events, and started my own business. It was a massive, massive shift. And it all came from putting myself into that one room. And what I'd love to know is, tell me a story of a time you made it into a room and it had a profound impact on your life.
I have a really good example of
Yeah.
this.
Oh, good.
So my whole coaching career, I was very focused on doing one-on-one coaching, where I loved that and I loved doing the one-to-one, but you're limited. You're always limited to
Totally.
how many hours you have, how many people you can take on.
Yes.
I was working a 6-day week, couldn't say no to people. And so I was crazy busy, but I'd reached a plateau and I was burning out. And it was just before COVID hit.
Okay.
And there was an event that was taking place in Dubai, run by a big company called Najahi. And they bring in big speakers from all around the world. And one of those speakers was Les Brown.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, this sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go do something different. I said to my husband, come. We're going to do something different for the weekend. We're going to go and be inspired. And so I dragged him along. He wasn't very enthusiastic at the start, but we came away from that event, this atmosphere in that event, first of all, the speakers, and being introduced to speaking from stage was a whole new world to me. And I thought to myself,
really?
I want to be up there. Yeah, it's not something that I'd ever really been introduced to
Okay.
before. I know it's a big thing in the States, but it's
Yes.
not so much here. And but I came away from that thinking, I really see myself up there. Give
Mm.
me a couple of years. And another thing that happened there was that there were several speakers that we came away from that event having spent the equivalent of a small car in investing in our own development.
Yeah. Well,
But it
did you
paid
buy
off.
the offer from stage, or are you saying the tickets to get in?
Oh, no, buying the offer
Okay.
from
Okay.
stage. Yeah, yeah. And so the tickets to get in were very, cost effective.
Yes.
They were not expensive. But yeah, we bought quite a lot from stage. And the first speaker, he grabs you and you're running to the front of the room and you
Yeah.
think, I need to be part of this. And then the next speaker does the same. You're thinking, oh
Yes.
my goodness, my budget.
Did you know had you because when I went to that event that I described to you, I didn't know of the concept of selling from stage. That was foreign to me because I was in the corporate event space,
Yeah.
and so I didn't know that there was these events where people
Hmm.
sold. Did you know when you went into that room?
No, I
Okay.
had no idea. I did not know what we were in for, basically. But it was definitely worth it because some of the people that I signed up for, one of those in particular, has become my mentor for the last 4 years, and he's literally transformed the way that I do business now.
Mm,
And he's opened my possibilities to be able to work with more people, to work on a global basis,
yes.
to have a bigger reach, and to not be restricted to this 1-to-1, one
Yes.
hour is what you can charge, which limits you. And so through this, I've been able to now scale a business
Oh, I love
to a
that.
whole new level that I never dreamt before would be possible.
Wow. Wow. Do you mind sharing who was the mentor that really, caught your eye?
No, no problem. His name is John Penberthy. He's
Oh,
based in the
no. I
UK.
haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
He runs a marketing event every year. I spoke at his event last year. So
Oh.
it was transformational coming in contact with him, working with him, helping me to transform my business and then to go back and give back by being a speaker at his event.
Mm.
And that's where I met Devon Brown
Oh, okay, that event.
because he
Okay.
was the MC at that event and he introduced me to come out on stage and then we created a connection
Yes.
and c'est la vie.
Oh, wow. And so you also got to see Les Brown at that same event. His
That was the
voice
event here in
is
Dubai, yeah.
so
Which he was one of the mentors that I also signed up with as well
Really?
to work with, yeah.
What does he teach on?
Public speaking,
Really? Okay, I didn't know
storytelling,
that.
being an emotive speaker,
Sure. Okay.
really transformational.
Oh,
And he's
how
such a
fun.
big cuddly teddy bear.
So you're in Dubai. How long have you been there?
Going on 18
Oh,
years.
wow. Okay. Because I know you're Australian. Did
Yes.
you go right from Australia to Dubai, or were there
No, I left Australia in 1996. I was scouted by a London agent because most of my career I've been a singer, songwriter, performer.
Okay.
And so I was scouted to go to Europe as a solo artist.
Mm.
And I said to my parents, I'm just going to go for 3 months. I'll be back. 3 months got extended to a year. I got so many opportunities over there. And then 1 year rolled to the next year and the next year. And that's where I met my husband about 8 years later. And then from there we moved to Belgium. We had our
Mm.
first daughter in Belgium.
Mm.
And then we moved to Dubai. So
Mm.
we've been around a bit.
I mean, Dubai's become such a hot spot. I'm guessing there's more events that are coming to Dubai now, like
Yeah.
that we find in the States.
Yes, it's changed so much. If you've been here and you've seen the evolution of this city, it's really incredible.
Mm.
When I first came here, there was very little. There was very little in the way of music opportunities as a musician, which is why I then really pushed and shifted into coaching,
Okay.
and also because I've become a mum,
Mm.
and you don't want to be
Yeah.
constantly out doing late night gigs, smoky bars, all that stuff.
Right.
So,
On the road.
so it was the right transition for me at the time as well. I still do music and I still write songs but it's not my everything anymore.
Sure.
And
You're making
yeah, but definitely the city has evolved immensely, and there are massive events now that come here. All the big artists as well.
The Dubai just puts a smile on my face because we have this. I don't know how it started, but we have this ritual every New Year's Eve of making fondue as a family, like chocolate fondue.
Oh,
And then we sit by the TV while we're eating and we watch fireworks and on YouTube. And because I don't want to stay up until midnight. And one of the cities we always pick is Dubai because they have the beautiful tower and the
yeah, the
fireworks
Burj
display.
Khalifa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you say it?
Burj Khalifa.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
They do pride themselves here in being the biggest and the best and everything.
I told my daughter tonight, I said, I'm going to go do a podcast recording and she is in Dubai. That's where we watch the fireworks for New Year's Eve. She goes, oh, yeah,
Good.
yeah, totally. I get it. So I have been producing events for 20 years now, and I really can spot somebody who's living out their purpose through events from a mile away. And I can tell that this piece of speaking on stages really lights you up. And what I'd love to know is, and also the coaching of people to be able to do that. And
Um,
I wonder what drives you, what lights you up about that the most. Why did you get so excited at that event that this avenue exists to speak on stage?
I think a couple of reasons. First, I'm a natural performer. I love to be on stage.
Okay.
And whether it was being a singer, performer, or now sharing my own story from a stage and being able to inspire other people, that was one aspect. And then the other aspect is to be able to reach more people, to
Yes.
be able to move away from this one-on-one where you're very limited how many people you can touch
Mm-hmm.
and help, to being able to work with one to many and share
Yep.
and coach people. I mean, when you speak from a stage, you're sharing a message, you're sharing, you're educating people. You have the opportunity to help so many more. That's
Yes.
all I can say to that.
Yeah, I feel the same. Uh, do you have a vision for events within your business about building your own stage?
Yes, I have it coming up.
Oh, really? Tell me.
So maybe we can have another conversation about that when I'm more clear on exactly what I want to do. But prior to COVID, I was running events, small events,
Okay.
about 4 times a year.
Mm,
And they were going really well. I enjoyed them a lot. But I kept them fairly small so I could make it intimate and give
yes.
everybody value.
Mm-hmm.
But what I see now is moving into something a bit bigger
Mm,
and perhaps over a couple of days,
mm-hmm.
and really offering a lot of value
Mm-hmm.
during those 2 days
Mm-hmm.
here in Dubai.
Oh, wow. That's a very attractive event, I think, because I just remember. So I think I mentioned that I went to that 4-day personal development seminar. I don't know if I said it was Brendan Burchard. Have you heard of
Oh,
him?
I know. Yeah,
Okay.
I know of him. Won't
So
say I know him.
he back when I did this, he ran 3 different styles of events and he would do them back to back in the fall. It was a personal development event for 4 days in September, followed by a 4-day entrepreneurial, like expert style, like how to teach you to monetize what you know kind of style event,
Hmm.
and then followed by a 4-day speaking event. And at the personal development event, I learned about the next one. I was like, wait, what? You can monetize what you know? I need to go to that room. So then in October, I went to that 4-day event. And then at that one, I learned, wait, there's a how to like find your voice so you can do the speaking about what you know. Okay, yeah, I'm in for that, even though that's the scariest thing in the world to me. So I went to his 4-day speaking event, and that was the last time that he did that event. And it was, I can't believe that I did it because I'm one of those people that would just rather hide under a table than speak from stage. And I'm the person, I'm the wizard behind the curtain making it all happen. That's what lights me up and brings joy to me, not being on the stage at that time. And so I was just surprised that I found myself in that room. And then really surprised by how exciting it was to learn how to use my voice and like what vocal warm-ups are, and uh, the power of story, and kind of like, how to use your limbs when you're on stage, all that stuff that was just foreign to me. And he had on a couple experts, Roger Love.
I was going to ask, was Roger
Yeah,
there? I
and
know he did an event
also
with
you
Brendan.
did?
No, no, no. I was saying I know
Oh,
Roger
okay.
used to work with Brendan at these
Yeah.
events. Yeah.
So Roger was there, and then also Bo Eason.
Okay.
And Roger would taught the like how to use your voice piece. I think he coaches singers too, and then Bo taught the kind of the storytelling, kind of how to take up space
Mhm.
piece of it. I think both of them are phenomenal, and it
Yeah.
was just it was so enlightening to to learn. There's just so much that goes into it, and to see why, and to hear kind of their stories of how they'd coached Brendan and to do what he does, because he's so incredible on stage, and to really appreciate what it takes to really command attention on a stage and move people.
I think people are not aware enough of what's involved in really, as you say, commanding a
Mhm.
stage, commanding an audience, grabbing
Yeah.
attention. And it's not just, I hear people say, oh, I'm already a good speaker, but they've never tapped into this side of it, how your voice can be changed. You can use little nuances. You can bring people down. You can go bold. You can go big. You can have this entire control in how you take your audience on a journey.
Mhm.
And I know Roger does this. I've followed Roger for many years, and I actually went to one of his events in Los Angeles back in 2019, I think it
Oh,
was.
fabulous.
It was a 3-day event, fairly similar, and that I wanted to see how can you do what I do and command a room
Yes.
over 3 days as one person,
Yes.
and he did it so well,
Yes.
and he inspired me then to come back and start running my own events here
Oh,
in a
I'm
similar
so
similar
glad.
fashion.
I'm so glad, because we need more people doing that and doing it with excellence, and really helping give voice to all. I'm passionate particularly about the coaching industry, just because my life was changed when I met coaches. And so I love that you got inspired. I think it's helpful. I do encourage uh, students all the time to go and get in the rooms, so that of the people who are playing at a high level, to see how it's
Yeah.
done, so that it can inspire you, and help you imagine what your brand coming to life on stage would look like. Because it's not going to be just like Roger, or just like Lisa, or just like Sarah. You're going to have your own live embodiment of your brand, as you build your own stage. But being in the room with these masters who've really like mastered their craft of whether it's selling from stage, or how to like speak from stage, or tell stories, or whatever it
Mm.
is, it really is so helpful. And I'm a visual person. Maybe that's why it's so helpful, and why I recommend it to people. But it's just so helpful to see what's possible.
No, I fully agree. I think when you're there, your imagination starts
Mm,
to play,
hmm
and you can envision things that you can't do when you're on your own.
hmm
And being an entrepreneur is tough. You're
mm,
you're mostly on your own. You're a solo person. You need to have those opportunities to connect with other people
yes.
and be inspired by other people.
Yes. Yep. That's my favorite part about being in rooms, is that piece about seeing that you're not alone, and that you're not that there are other people striving like you are. And I think it was particularly helpful for me coming from corporate America, where all the worldview I had was that everyone sits in an office building in a cubicle and aspires to perhaps someday get an office with a door, and perhaps someday get an office with
Hmm.
windows, and probably not ever get the corner office. And so, but that was it. And it just rocked my world when I was able to get in a room. I'm just thankful the universe directed me into that room to be able to see, wait, there's so much else out there. And that's the power of kind of getting in rooms with other growth-minded individuals.
True.
Mm.
Mm.
I want to know that let's talk a little bit about gratitude. I found that embracing gratitude just really opens up my self-awareness, and I think it helps me enjoy the ride more. And I'm so serious and driven that it's been a helpful practice to add into my life and helps me even spot opportunities. And so I'm curious, what are a few things that you're particularly grateful for, especially when it comes to the coaching business that you've built now?
Mm. Um, I mean, I'm grateful for so much. When I think gratitude, I think of the possibilities that I'm now able to work more from home
Mm-hmm.
and work through screens, and people are more accepting of being able to work through a screen, whereas 3 4 years ago that was
Thank you,
a no-go,
pandemic.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that being now opened up. In fact, I can tell you a little story. Before the pandemic, in the Middle East and in the UAE and other Middle Eastern countries as well, they block all voice over IP, all platforms where you could have had these sessions together through screen. There weren't a possibility. Skype was not allowed here. It was blocked. Zoom was blocked. WhatsApp doesn't work at all still to this day to be able to voice call people. And all of these platforms. FaceTime is actually, if you buy a phone here, there is no FaceTime on your phone.
You're blowing my
It's
mind.
removed. Yeah. And so we were quite isolated, especially if you think about you're living away from your family as an expat,
Yeah.
and you still can't even jump on and
Mm.
see them through a screen. It wasn't allowed. It was actually illegal if you were caught. It were hefty fines or jail sentences. So everyone was
Wow.
scared. But that all opened up. At least a lot of these platforms opened up to us through the pandemic. So I know I'm drifting a bit off topic, but just I think that's enlightening for listeners as
Yeah.
well, because people don't realize that. They say, "Well, why can't we WhatsApp?" No, it doesn't work here. And so that's something that I was incredibly grateful for,
Mm.
that was opened up to
That's
us
huge.
through the pandemic. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
huge.
um, yeah. What else am I? I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my knowledge and my experience to help other people. I'm I'm grateful for my clients,
Mm.
those that entrust me with their voices and with um, their success, their growth to success.
It's got to be a deeply personal activity, coaching in the voice space. I feel like there's probably a lot more tied up than just how you're using, how you're shaping your words and how your tongue is resting in your mouth. I think there might even be some self-worth tied up in how you use your voice.
When I work with somebody, once I start to help them to find their voice, their confidence grows as well.
Yes.
So a lot of people will come to me, they say, "Oh, I'm so nervous, I can't get up on a stage," and then my voice starts to fail and I lose my train of thought, and all of these things start to happen. But it's a lot in tune with the fact that how they speak
Mm.
is not contributing to their message, and they
Yes.
feel that, and so their confidence wanes as well. And so once you start to build all of the skills around being an effective speaker, and that's how you sound, being able to play with your voice, it's how you stand on the stage, it's how you can walk and talk
Mhm.
and share your message, your confidence builds with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How you breathe is the foundation of all good speaking.
It's so important. What I've never been able to figure out is when I get nervous, it seems like I run out of breath. when I'm talking. Things that,
That would be right.
that don't happen when I'm not nervous. Then I'm like, "Well, where did all the breath go? And how come I
Yeah.
can't figure out where to breathe?" And I normally can figure that out.
Because when you get nervous, your body starts to take the breath in a shallow manner. So the breath is only sitting up high. And the more you breathe high, the more you're out of breath. And it starts to spiral for you as well, because as you're nervous, you're breathing more shallow, and then you're starting to feel more and more out of breath. And this is where the power of being able to be in control of getting your breath right down deep in those moments when you think, okay, I'm getting a bit nervous. Just give me a second. Let me breathe, get the breath deep, and recommence.
Mm.
And it makes all the difference.
Okay, totally love that tip. It's so practical. And would that be the kind of breath that you kind of come out of where your belly kind of comes out, sticks out, rather than like where your rib cage would come out?
The best way to get in touch with it is what I teach is to, instead of thinking about getting the breath in initially, you're going to breathe out as if you're telling your daughter to shh, be quiet. Just start with the exhale. Just try that.
Yeah, I feel that down in my like below my rib cage.
Exactly. So if you initiate with the exhale from the right place, then all of a sudden when you're finished with that breath and your muscles have you've tightened up, you felt that tension in your core, then when you relax, the breath will naturally restore itself right back down deep. And there you've initiated that process of deep breathing.
That's so good. I was having a conversation on the podcast with a life coach, and we were talking about this concept of having like a plan. I don't want to call it a contingency plan, but a plan for if, if such and such happens. Like if I'm stuck in fear, then I will do this. Or if I'm, like ruminating on something and it's like taking over my ability to think, then I will do this. And having these pre-planned responses.
Okay.
And I'm loving this. This essentially is a pre-planned response. So if I become nervous on stage and I'm feeling short of breath, then I breathe out through my mouth like I'm telling someone to be quiet, and then it will naturally restore the deep
Yeah.
breathing that I need in order to not feel out of breath.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
It's just a little magic hack. It
Yes.
works so well.
That is so good. So let's continue in that. So I've always felt that the magic of hosting events lies in the details. I'm super detail oriented. I think that's probably what makes me good at what I do, because I see like all of the problems before they become problems, and then try to like figure out how we're gonna mitigate before it even happens. And I but I also kind of see details, like whether it's going to be flowers on the table or the amount of lighting we put on the stage. I see them as like little expressions of how much we care for our guests. And for me, caring in this way ties back deeply into my purpose in life, which is caring for others. And so thinking about like what we just talked about that like breath hack, what are other details that you get into, that like little things that an entrepreneur who's feeling called to speak on the stage could or should do to get a little bit closer to delivering with excellence? Because I think a lot of times in this expert space, people coach and then they amass this audience, and there's the kind of this community, and there's this pent up demand to get together, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put on an event now, and they've never been trained to speak on stage. What kind of little details would you say, like, hey, if you attended to this and this, it would really take your ability to communicate from stage up several notches?
I think the first thing is you have to get with them and identify who is their audience and what is their message and what do they want their audience to come away having
Love
felt
that.
or learned or experienced. That's your first step when you're putting together your presentation. And I don't think it's thought through enough. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to speak from stage. I'll put my slide deck together and I'm just going to go out and present.
Because maybe they're just focusing on what do I want to teach them, how do I want to learn. But you said more words than that. You said, how do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do?
What do I want my audience to come away having
Mm,
experienced? Whether that's learnt or just had a pleasure moment or
mm,
being inspired to take an
yeah.
action, to go and do something. And taking an action isn't just, I'm going to sell from stage. Yeah, let's do the call to action. Taking an action is just getting them to come away and do something. Whether that's your call to action could just be go follow me on
Right.
Instagram, or it could be download my free ebook, or it could be moving them to becoming a customer,
Yep.
or it could just be inspiring them to go and do something that you've spoken about in your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so that's the beginning of the journey. And then learning how to weave stories into your presentation
Mm,
so that your presentation becomes personal. And when you show
mm.
vulnerability and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and share a part of yourself, then your audience will be receptive to you because they'll connect on a deeper level. They'll feel like they know you because what you're saying, wow, I've experienced that too. It will reflect in some memory that they've had, and there's a connection then.
Let's talk about that vulnerability piece for a moment, because I find that nervousness gets in the way of vulnerability on stage. That once someone makes a mistake or forgets what the next thing that they were going to say is, they kind of get nervous and tense up. Or let's say the slide's not advancing, and so it really throws them off, and
Yep.
they don't know how to handle it. And being vulnerable would be like, whoops, the slide, then my clicker is not working. You know, and then call out the name of the producer. Sarah, would you bring another one up here because this one is just not working? Or would you advance me
Yeah.
to the next slide because that's the one I want to be on? And people don't want to be vulnerable like that, but that's
Mm-hmm.
actually super sexy to an audience, and just feel so comfortable if someone could just step out of being this, like, I have to be perfect because I'm on stage person.
Yeah.
Tell
Or,
me more about that.
in the corporate world, I think a lot of people think, well, this is my image and this is how I'm supposed to be. And so I can't show that I make mistakes.
Yes.
But as you say, that is the best way to acknowledge it
Yes.
and move on.
Yes. How else do you see a lack of vulnerability getting in the way of a message getting across? Or maybe better would be, what does vulnerability look like on stage?
Exactly these things we're talking about. Vulnerability is showing that you're
Mm,
human, showing your personal side,
yeah.
and not feeling like you have a wall between you and your audience, but allowing yourself to really come through.
Isn't that isn't that silly how it does feel like instantly once you're on stage that there is a wall up between you and the other human, you, the human, and the other humans that are in the audience? And
I've never seen it that
it
way.
doesn't serve,
Is
it doesn't serve at all to think of it that way.
No, I mean, I've come from a performance background as a singer and a pianist and performing from stage. And I mean, there's two sides to this. One was, and it's one that I always teach other singers, is if you forget the words, you just keep going. You don't acknowledge it. You just continue on as if nothing ever happened and nobody will ever notice.
Mm,
That's one side to it. But if you really make a faux pas that is very, very clear, that's when you want to make address it and then continue on. And I think that shows professionalism.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the most professional speakers I see are able to be very human with their guests, and explain when things have gone awry or not as planned, and
Yeah.
get right back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other?
Hey, I just forgot what I was going to say. Just let me backtrack for a minute.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Is there another skill that you picked up as a singer that you think serves you really well? Like maybe a way that you've thought about the stage differently as a speaker, as a singer, that carried through and allowed you to feel more safe and at ease on stage as a speaker?
I think so. There's so many things that you learn as a performer, skills that cross across into the speaker arena. And when you're training in theater, musical theater, acting, dance, drama, you learn how to be in control of your nerves, how to not let them show even when you are nervous, how to turn negative energy into positive energy, how to those butterflies, that fear, to turn it into an excitement that's going to help and fuel your performance. And things like how you use the stage, the 5 points of
Mm-hmm.
stage, to be able to utilize that when you're speaking. If you're a singer, you'll go across to one side of the room and you'll sing one verse, and then you'll go across to the other side of the room and you'll share the chorus, and then you'll come back to the center and you'll sing to everybody. Exactly the same technique
Yes.
works as a speaker. You go across to this side and you share, so that side of the room feels connected to you, and then you walk to the other side and you stop and you share to the other side, and then you come back to center. And you can keep doing that throughout the course of a speech, presentation, keynote.
Yeah.
And when you watch great speakers, you see them doing this.
Yes. Without it looking like it's pacing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll notice they tend to walk across and stop. Walk and stop. Not continuously walking.
Yes.
I think there's so much to be learned by watching other speakers who inspire you. And even to watch speakers who aren't so good, because you can learn from, well, why am I not connected to the
Why am I
speaker?
feeling
What is it that
Yeah.
annoys me about this
Yes.
speaker? And when you can understand that, then that's going to help you to improve your own skills.
Yeah. Back to putting yourself in the room is to get inspiration for
Mm-hmm.
your next event. It also will inspire you about your speaking skills to help you aspire to, I want to be able to move like that on stage, or I want to wear clothes that make me feel comfortable and at ease, and I don't like whatever that person's wearing feels too stiff, and I wouldn't feel good in that, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You'll pick it up by being in the room and noticing. I love just to just say, yeah, have your head on a swivel and be taking it all in, and you'll notice what kind of lights you up and what turns you off. Mm-hmm. You said something about control, and it made me think about controlling the room as a speaker, how important that is, and how I think that people don't realize that that's their job, and that as the person on the stage, you're in charge of controlling the room, and taking ownership of that job allows everyone in the audience to feel at ease. Do you teach on that at all, and how to do that?
I think when you try to think of it that way, my job is to control the room, it can put too much pressure on you. And then you start to
Get nervous.
through that pressure,
Yes.
lose it.
Yes.
Because I was speaking also with John. I had him on my podcast, my mentor, a couple of weeks back, and we were talking exactly about this. Not all speakers, as we've said, are necessarily great speakers, and they're not booked to be an event because they're a great speaker. They're booked to be at an event because they've got something to
Yes.
share that an audience is going to learn from. So if they put so much pressure on themselves, it's my job when I go out there that I have to control the room. I have to deliver. I have to,
Use all 5 points
you
of the
know,
stage.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Then that might be too much.
Mm,
But to go out there and know, I have something to
mm,
share. I have a gift. I
mm.
have knowledge that the people in this room are going to
Yes.
appreciate. And that's my
Mhm,
job, to share my knowledge with them. It's not about me. It, when you're up on that stage, it shouldn't be about you. It's about your audience. And you need to turn the spotlight around, put the spotlight on the audience, take it off you.
mm.
You're there to share, to give them an experience. And if you focus on that, then you're going to deliver.
That seems like such great advice for the entry level speaker who's just getting started. They're an expert at something, and so it's time that they get on the stage and share it. But they haven't
And
had
and that
training, like with someone like you.
and that's a good point as well, because people hold themselves back from putting themselves out there because I'm not perfect yet. I haven't refined my skills. But when are we ever
Mm,
perfect? We have to start somewhere. I mean, it's a famous quote throughout our entrepreneurial
yes.
um, industry. But if you don't get started, you'll never get started. You'll never know, because you're never going to be at that level that you aspire to be without the practice in the first place.
Mm, yes. I get that.
And somebody else said, if I know I'm going to bomb, then get it over with. And it can only get better from
Yeah.
there.
I think about that because I do see myself speaking on big stages. Not I don't think that being a professional speaker touring around feels like my destiny, but I do see myself speaking on a small handful of big stages someday. And I think the perfectionist in me thinks, well, I know all the big names have got like a speaking coach and they've got a movement coach and they've got a stylist that's helping them with their wardrobe and all these things. And I feel like, oh, I'm going to have all of that before I could even think about, and you're shaking your head because that's such a perfectionist mindset. How do you coach people who think like that? Like, I couldn't possibly get out on the stage or even build my own because I haven't done all of those things yet.
I think you need to. Well, I'm not a mindset coach. I'm not a life coach in that aspect. So, but most definitely, exactly what we were saying. You've got to, I think, alleviate yourself of that
Mm,
pressure and that perfectionism
yes.
initially, and focus more on what you have to give.
Mm,
And if it's not your stage first, I mean, it's a big thing, even though you are an expert in what you do, but to put on your own event, which is centered around you,
yes.
that's a lot of pressure. So start by finding opportunities to speak on other people's
Yes.
stages,
That's such good
and
advice.
hone your skills there, and get your show reels. I mean, usually they'll be videoed, and if you go and you do it for free initially, that gives you the experience, that gives
Mhm.
you the opportunity to get some footage. Once you have that footage, then you start to build your showcase, your experience,
Yes.
and you get more opportunities to then to get onto the bigger stages or the paid stages, or ultimately have your own.
Yes. Yeah. What a great advice to kind of put the training wheels on and go out and speak on somebody else's stage for an hour or two and kind of put in the reps that
I'm
way.
sure there are plenty of communities and places around everywhere in the world that you can find opportunities to hone your speaking skills, where you can say, hey, I've got a great topic I think would be interesting for your community, your audience. I'd love to come and speak on it.
Yeah.
Meetup groups around the world.
I think about the people who feel called, the entrepreneurs who feel called to speak on stage, their own, like put on their own event, but are holding themselves back because they just are not, they haven't put in the reps, they aren't comfortable yet on stage. And I love your advice for that segment, particularly because it's a probably a fast track to getting that confidence up so that they're ready to, because it's probably even more nerve-wracking when you're in front of your own people and you built your own stage. It feels bigger in some respects, like there's more weight there because they're your people.
Yeah, I think there is some truth in that.
Yeah. I just did this really cool journaling exercise from a book I just finished reading. It's called Built to Serve. It's by Evan Carmichael. He's a coach in the YouTube space, and he he had this great exercise. It helps uncover the word that drives you, kind of your purpose in life, and kind of what you're all about and why you serve the way that you do in the world. And I mentioned that the word that came out for me was care. And, I just feel that deep sense of satisfaction when I'm in service of others, helping care for them. And it makes me, it's made me think about others and kind of what makes them tick. And so I'm curious, like, how does your business fulfill your sense of purpose in life? And if so, what is it? I know it's kind of a putting you on the spot. I don't like ask, what's your purpose in life and how are you living that out in your business? But what comes up for you when I say that?
Certainty. So to be able to offer people a sense of certainty that they're going to get to their goals.
That is really unique. I love it. Tell me more. When did you first sense that delivering certainty was something that really moved you?
I'm not sure if moving is the right word. I just see that that's my
Mm,
responsibility to, if people are going to invest in themselves and invest in
mm,
me helping them, then I need to be able to give them a sense of
mm,
certainty that they are going to get to their goals. And that, I guess, is then tied up with I
mm,
care, I feel
mm,
responsible, I take them on, and I'm committed.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that word, certainty. I'm working with a coach right now who is really driving into all of us who are in his coaching program how important certainty is. That's what people crave. Like they're drawn to certainty, and actually I think that's a piece of, for me, why I love when a speaker knows how to command a room, is like they're giving the audience a sense of certainty. It feels like it puts the whole audience at ease and gives them such a sense of comfort. I think people really crave certainty. It's probably why we were all
Mm.
such a muck in the pandemic, lacking certainty.
Yeah.
It's important. And I think
Mm.
I think I take for granted that how important it is, especially in transactions with coaches and transactions in sales. That-
I think it's becoming more and more important to be able to deliver that and put
mm,
emphasis on certainty, because as we are moving more and more into the digital space, and there are more and more coaches and
mm,
consultants offering trainings and programs which perhaps they don't have the experience and knowledge to back
yes.
up, then people are becoming more
Mm,
skeptical, more nervous, more cautious about what they're getting.
yep.
And so if you can deliver that sense of certainty through your experience, through your the way you approach your clients, the way you connect with them
Hmm.
initially, then I think that's important.
Yes. So I mentioned that I've been working with a new coach, and he's really stretching me in all sorts of very hard and painful, but good ways. And I think it's been a really good reminder for me and how much joy there is in accomplishment and momentum for me personally. And
I like that word
I
momentum.
do too.
It's
It
yeah.
just feels good. It's not even it's not even that it's that's not even the thing that I'm going after that's important. It's like I just want to feel a sense that I'm moving towards it, you know? And anyways, so it makes me curious. I'm guessing that you're probably in coaching yourself. You mentioned the mentor that you've had in the past, and maybe you're still with him. Uh, what lessons have you learned about yourself recently that have been really helpful?
Helpful. And one thing that just jumps to mind, which I'm not actually, it is helpful, but I'm still learning how to deal with it. My daughter was diagnosed with
Mm,
ADHD recently, or actually a couple of years back. And what we've noticed throughout the course of the last couple of years is we're convinced that I have it as well, but I've never addressed it
mm,
before. I've never known how to handle it. And I think it's something which is getting worse for me with age. So this scatterbrained disorganization. And I look at my daughter and I think, that's so like me. And so what I'm now coming to terms with is I don't want to label it or anything, but how can I improve the way that I work for myself,
mhm.
as in structure my time, structure distractions
Yes.
and things like that.
I love that you said that. I actually am in a waiting queue right now to go to a doctor. They said it's gonna be months to get a diagnosis because I'm certain that I do as well. I think it
Well,
I
apparently a lot of creatives do.
I think
And it was never a thing back in when we were younger. It wasn't talked
uh,
about. It was more taboo even to put a label on something. Whereas now it seems it's very, very
well, and
embraced.
it's genetic. So if your daughter
Yeah,
has it, it came from either your husband or you. And I know it runs in my family, and just I think being off on my own as an entrepreneur is really, and having control of all of my time had really shown a light on how hard
yeah,
focus is for me. And then I look at my husband who's occasionally works from home, and how he's able to stay focused in one place all day, like without, I mean, it's like such a sense of ease for him to be right here, right now on one thing. And I am doing a million things. My mind's going a million miles an hour.
yeah.
I have so many irons in the fire, and it's
All your tabs open on one place, and then you go to one, and then you forget why you came to that one, and then you go back to another one.
I just recently implemented
That's
this
me.
card system where I like right now I have a card in front of me that says Greenroom Central because that's what I'm doing right now is I'm recording a podcast with you, and I set it right in front of me. And when I'm working on like a different client, then their name will be up in front of me. And I'm testing out this method of just constantly
Okay.
having like
Stay
something
focused.
that where when my eyes scan, I go back and go, oh, actually, that's what you're doing right now. You're not going to go work on that other
Interesting.
client's thing right now. You're going to stay here. But I just, yeah, it's a thing. And yeah, I think there's lots with regards to different health practices and other accommodations. And I'm just interested in exploring all of it because I just want to be uh, a high performer, and I want to really
Oh,
kind of tap into my full potential. And I know that distraction holds me back. Yeah.
another thing which I'm embracing now more and more as I'm teaching this to others, and that's to keep a library of all your stories.
Mm, tell me more.
So, and we'll have a moment where you think of something and you're going to tell a friend something that happened to
Hmm.
you And it's one of these memories, it's not always sitting there, but something triggers the memory back to you.
Yes.
And if you write these down in the moments that you have these memories, even you don't have to write the full story, but you just write a reminder of what that story was, then you can then go back and you start to build your story
Mm.
library. And if you've got a bank of stories that you can draw on when you're speaking, that's going to give you the
It's
edge
such a good tip.
in your speaking opportunities. And everybody, people that I speak with, they say, "Oh, yeah, but nobody would be interested in my stories, or my stories are not relevant. How could I make that
Yeah.
relevant to a business presentation?" But you'd be really surprised how when you draw into what is the underlying message of a story, you'll find lots of different themes,
Mm.
and you can then find that theme that could relate back to your main message that you're speaking about.
When
Whether there was a story about being courageous, or being, putting yourself in the face of fear, or whether it's just something like a
mm,
behavior, and or something is, I don't know. I think of a pineapple. Take a pineapple, and a pineapple has a spiky
mhm.
edge. It's prickly on the outside. It's soft and juicy on the inside. It's sweet. It could be sour. And you take these thoughts around a particular image, and how could you then relate that back to a
Mm.
message? So, um, if you take a story and you think what are the underlying messages within that story, you can then take those and relate them back to your main message. I hope that makes sense to
It
your
does,
listeners.
and so what it makes me wonder though is, so I would instantly think very like practically, tactically, like I have my phone and I have a notes app on my phone and I'm thinking, well, I'll name one stories because I always have my phone with me, and then I would just be able to go
Yeah.
in to my notes app and make that, like, jot that story down that I just thought of. I'm wondering, do you ask your students to attach any other words to that, like, oh, like, about the theme, as you said,
So yeah, the emotion, or the
the
if
emotion.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
and so the more they start to write that story out, they're going to really dive into what are
Mm,
those underlying thoughts, emotions,
mhm,
feelings, and you start to craft the story. You start to find a way that you can add characters into it. That's when you take that story and you really want to evolve it into something that you could use.
mm,
But initially, I just say, as you say, get your
yeah.
phone out and quickly record a message, label it so that you don't forget what it was about, and then you can go back to it anytime and develop that.
So good. I love that tip. So I should be writing down the story and also the emotion that came from that. Like, what is this, is a story about fear or embarrassment or growth. So good.
And you might find several different themes that
Mm,
attach to it.
mhm, mm. Oh, I love it. I love it. I I think we have time for maybe like one more question. I'm wondering if we could talk for a minute about learning. So I value lifelong learning so much. When I met Audible and learned and personal development all at the same time, and learned that there's this whole world of books about entrepreneurship and personal development, it just cracked me wide open, and just like I just am so grateful for what I've been able to do as a result of like learning. And I also subscribe to the thought that we have to design our own curriculum with intention. And so before we wrap up here, I'd love to know kind of a three-part question. First, what book are you reading right now? And why did you pick that book? And what's one thing you learned from it?
Oh, I'm reading Be Seen
Oh,
by Jen
I haven't
Gottlieb.
read it yet, but I'm excited about it.
It's, yeah, and it's incredibly insightful. I chose to read it. I actually heard her interviewed on a podcast with Amy Porterfield one day, and I loved what she was saying, the messaging about, there's so much value in the book about one thing, your badass list. So if you are having a moment, let's say you have a situation or an experience which puts you
Okay.
down and you didn't do so well in that, you could take that experience and that could affect your ability to perform going
Yes.
forward. It could debilitate you to put yourself back out there. So Jen talks about having a list and you write down all the things that you are proud of what you've achieved in your life. And you keep that list and you keep adding to that list. So when you have a moment where you didn't do so well, you go back to that list and you remind yourself of all the things that you have achieved. And that just helps to keep you at the right level, staying positive and staying energized to keep moving forward. Hashtag keep moving forward. I love that
So
too.
good. I'm reading The Gap and the Gain by Dan Selvin and Benjamin Hardy.
Okay, I don't know that
And
one.
it's all about how very driven entrepreneurial types like you and me are very good at keeping an eye on the gap between where they are and where the dream is, and
Mm-hmm.
not looking at the gain, which is all of the things that you just described, that all of our accomplishments along the way, the things that we're proud of, the stuff that we've overcome, the people that we've helped, the books that we've read, like, all of the stuff that's made us who we are and all of the progress that we've made towards our goals, and that focusing on the gain will actually help us close the gap.
Mm,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
true. Like
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
it's been really making me think, how can I incorporate a process like you just shared from Jen's book into my daily practice so that I'm staying more in the game, like looking how far I've
In the
come.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely worth a read. I recommend it
Thank
as
you.
a great book, particularly for female entrepreneurs. Yeah.
So,
There's only one of you. You have created your own experiences. There's nobody like
mhm,
you. There may be other people doing what you're doing, but nobody's doing it like
mm,
you.
mm, yeah, so true. Lisa, it has been an absolute joy to have you on the show today. And I would love for you to share what you've got going on in your business right now that we should know about. And also, where can Linchpin Nation find you?
Okay. Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. It's been a pleasure to be here. I have my coaching programs. I've got my podcast.
Yes.
So if anybody's interested in learning more about speaking from stage, improving your voice, your performance techniques, in my podcast, I'm every week giving either a new tip or a technique that they can learn, or I have other guests on like yourself who have great value to share, who are out there using their
Mm.
voices, and they're a great example and somebody to learn from. So that's Impact Through Voice is the name of the podcast. And you can also have a listen on my website, which is lisahugo.com/podcast.
Oh, excellent. I will link all that up in the show notes. I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to some episodes of your podcast. It's very tactical. Like, I
Oh, thank
think
you.
if you want like some great techniques on how to improve your voice, it is definitely your one-stop shop. Head there. It's so good.
Thank you.
And
Well, we've had some great guests like the amazing Devon Brown
yes,
that
I
you
loved that episode.
connected with. Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here today.
Sarah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Greenroom Central podcast. If you loved this episode, then please take a screenshot on your phone and post it to Instagram, and be sure to tag @SarahFafer and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear or who you'd like to hear from in the future. That'll help me know what to create for you. The number one thing I'm asked by CEOs, whether it's their first event or their 20th, is, Sarah, how do I get more butts in seats? And so I put together a guide for you. Head over to fillingevents.com for your free copy of 107 ways to fill your event. I want to help you quickly master event marketing for your events, even if you've never done it before. I've scoured the online business world and found 107 of my favorite strategies working right now to fill your next in-person or virtual event. Create the event promotion plan you need from these easy-to-implement, customizable strategies for free over at fillingevents.com. I appreciate your commitment to leveling up and learning the mindset and strategy of live events. Keep going. Keep learning. If you want more, head over to greenroomcentral.com for show notes and all the links from today's episode.